Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. Today's creeps, it's a duo, and they are from the past, and they have been romanticized in several films, most notably the 1967 Arthur Penn movie, Bonnie and Clyde. We're going to talk about their history. And this is a very high viewpoint that we're taking. I'm not going to be too granular with the details. It could take you hours just to list all their crimes, so I don't want to do that. But we're going to give you the reason why they're actual creeps and not to be worshipped like they have been. Mm-hmm. You could follow us on Facebook. We do have a basic Facebook page. The episodes are posted there, but that's also a place where people go to complain about our salty language. Yes, we use salty language in this program.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are adults. We also have a private Facebook group, and that's where we are the most interactive. So if you have Facebook and you want to hang out with us, it's What a Creep podcast group. It's private. You have to answer 3 questions in order to join. One of those questions is, do you promise basically to not be a creep in the Facebook group?
Don't be a dick.
Exactly. What a Creep podcast group. We're on Twitter at CreepPod, while Twitter still exists. Because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
We're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. Please follow us there. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, please send us an email, give us your address, and we will drop them in the mail for you wherever you are on the planet of Earth. We will do that.
True story.
True story. All right, y'all. Sonia, you want to tell them about the website?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about our podcast, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes. And in each of those episode summaries are show notes, because we source every single thing we do. We're not just making this up. So you can go there, see all the sources. We also have a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and tote bags and all the good things. You should definitely go check it out. And there's a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Sure do. Patreon. That is the place to go if you want to send us a few bucks our way to help support the show. We use that to pay for these news sources, and the books and the stuff that we rent to watch. It also pays for the hosting costs and the software for the editing and all that shit. So anyway, it's Patreon. It's What a Creep podcast. We have our first 5 seasons up there. We also put out 2 bonus episodes a month, and then we put out a newsletter every month because Sonia is rad at doing newsletters. Just
thank you.
So y'all know. And let's see. Oh, iTunes. Please leave us 5 stars if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts. I want to thank Coda Lynn 217. Love this podcast. Also, once again, Nappy Dresser, because I forgot to say last week that she says spicy and salty wit. Thank you so much. It helps us find our people who can then find our show. And it also helps when we get dicks that try to just leave us 1 or 2 stars just to ruin our day. It just helps with that. And then
Lady hurt my fifis.
Lady people talking. Me no like. I'm going to give it 2 rocks.
I'm leaving 1 star, and anytime you leave 1 star in my head, I'm going, tell me you have a small wiener without telling me you have a small wiener. That's all I'm thinking when y'all leave 1-star reviews, just saying.
Also, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, if you could just, be sure to subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. And if money is tight, if you could just leave us a review, that would be amazing. Or ask for stickers, put it on your skateboard or your laptop or whatever. Go to the coffee shop, go to the skate park. Look all rad. Can you imagine our faces on somebody's skateboard that they pay a lot of money for?
Like a 14-year-old boy's like, yeah, man, I'm totally listening to What a Creep. They go so hard.
I would fucking love that. Why not? It could happen.
I don't know why that just amused me to no end. I've been listening to What a Creep, and they go so hard. I put their sticker on my skateboard.
Because I'm rad.
Um,
I'm going to get a Stussy t-shirt that they used to have back in the 80s on eBay because I'm cool.
I love their podcast. I don't have a small wiener.
Got a big dick, and it's going to get even bigger once I hit my growth spurt.
I don't know why I'm just cracking myself up thinking about a preteen who's like super into our show. Anyway.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. I love it for us. All right, so we did all the pre-show shit. We're going to dive into our creeps today. And just so you know, if this is your first time listening, we always challenge the other person to come up with a non-creep, so to kind of balance out the creepiness that we're doing, okay? So, Sonia, let's talk about Bonnie and Clyde.
Who's that?
Who
No, I'm just... Who dat?
Who dat? So, well, they died in Louisiana. It's a perfectly appropriate thing to say. So, what is when I say Bonnie and Clyde, what do you think?
The movie.
Uh-huh. What do you think?
Yeah. Because it's a really great movie.
It is.
It is kind of the movie that signifies the end of like the studio system and the rise of like gritty, more realistic movies. So it's like, you know, you got your Sound of Musics and Oliver, please, sir, can I have some more? And then you get Bonnie and Clyde. And then after that, it's like fucking French Connection and Dog Day Afternoon. And like, so that's what it means to me.
Well, it made big stars. They were already stars, but they made them even bigger stars. Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. Bonnie Parker, and Clyde Chestnut, really champion Barrow. He changed his middle name for some reason.
From Chestnut to Champion?
From Champion to Chestnut.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Seems weird, but okay. I'd stick with Champion.
They're big fucking liars, these people, by the way. And I honestly, they're such assholes. And I'm so glad to be able to do this on behalf of all the people that they killed, their families, because this is fucked up. But they were Depression-era outlaws, here in the U.S., by the way, who caught the nation's attention between 1932 and 1934 with their antics. According to legend, they were star-struck lovers who traipsed across the middle of America and the South, holding up banks just to stick it to the man.
Yeah, take that, the man.
Yeah. Your insured building. I'm going to rob it. The 1967 movie, directed by Arthur Penn, was a sexed-up Hollywood version of their affair. In real life, they were murderous losers who took 11 lives, kidnapped and terrorized several people, dropping them off hundreds of miles from their home sometimes. And they mostly robbed small businesses like gas stations and grocery stores. Plus, they put out shitty poetry.
Ew, that's the biggest crime right there. Roses are red, violets are blue.
I'll read a little bit. Actually, not that bad.
I'll stick it to the man and I'll stick it to you.
In Miami. Exactly. But never mind. I was just going to make a joke and I couldn't do it. In my haikus about Robin. Today, we will talk about the real story behind Bonnie and Clyde, trigger warning, sexual assault, and murder. And here are my sources. A lot. And all these, by the way, if you swipe on the artwork, you can be able to look this up for yourselves or go to What a Creep. Is it whatcreeppodcast.com? That's our website?
Yep.
Okay. So it's Wikipedia, history.com, 64parishes.com, Crime Museum, Decider, USA Today, Texas Monthly, 405 Magazine, Biography, Texas Archive, thoughtco.com, the book Bonnie and Clyde, The Making of a Legend by Karen Blumenthal, PBS American Experience, Netflix The Highwayman with Kevin Costner.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. And the YouTube channel that I really enjoyed, Anything Under the Sun, his is about 2 hours long. So he really, really gets into the details. If you're really into that, you could listen to him. But I'm just going to, like I said, give you the big overview.
Yeah.
So Bonnie and Clyde were born in Texas. She was born October 1st, 1910. He was born March 24th, 1909, or 1910, depending on who you ask. He was born into a big family. They were both born into loving families. Bonnie's father died when she was young, and then her mom had to move. And then, what happened, and this also happened, by the way, it still happens when the head of the household dies. Like everybody kind of suffers, and it depends on how much you have for savings or what you had for insurance or whatever. It can be a real struggle. So Bonnie was like the apple of her mother's eye, and she was very, very pretty. She was like a little doll. She was like 4'10" and like 80 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's not Faye Dunaway.
Wee.
Yeah, they always had like these tall model types that play her, and she was a wee bitty thing. And she loved fashion and makeup and hair. She used that to express her personality. She did very well in school when it came to creative writing and English, not so much the other subjects, which I can relate to.
I relate.
Clyde, chestnut champion Barrow, he was born into a very poor family in Texas. How poor? Good God. They were so poor.
They were so poor.
They had a wagon, like you see in the 1800s, like wagon training across the country. They had one of those, and they slept underneath it when it rained. Like, they didn't have indoor plumbing. They didn't have a house. They had and they grew up in West Dallas, which is still a more impoverished area, but at the time, and you need to think about America in the 1910s. After the way that the level of poverty that happened, and the haves and the have-nots, it was a real big gap. And
we fixed it though. Everything's fine now.
Everything's great now, right? There was this big wealth gap, and they lived. There was no paved roads. There was like a basic open outhouse where people this is very poor. And where do you go when you don't? You just either can just continue what you're doing, or you try to move to a big city and try to start over. His sisters moved to Dallas itself and became hairdressers and did really well for themselves. The women tended to do, except for Bonnie, they tended to find something and do something, but the men tended to turn to criming. So Clyde was 5'5" and 118 pounds. Very slight.
Okay.
He semi-handsome. Also, a lot of stories, they used to, around the 60s and 70s, there was this, after the movie, that 67 movie, and there were other movies before that, but nothing really caught on. There was a lot said about Clyde being bisexual, and that Bonnie was a nymphomaniac. I think they just enjoyed sex. I mean, they were in their 20s, and they were alone together, and it's like they were horny. I mean, I just don't understand, but it's sort of, there's a malevolence kind of around it sometimes. Clyde tried, he would fall, he had big crushes on girls, and he always had crushes on girls who were like wealthy. He wanted to be somebody's, he wanted one of these girls. The first time he gets arrested. Don't we all? He falls in love with a girl, and she likes him too. And all the women in his life are like very petite, very tiny. And
because he's 5'5".
He's 5'5". He's like Michael J. Fox size. Think about that. Okay. But not with with murderous rage. I mean, like burning inside of him all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
He dates this one girl. He's like 16 years old. She's super wealthy, and her family thinks he's trash. And he's like, I'm going to show you that I could be a gentleman. Like, I'm somebody you can invest in. So he shows up one day at her house, and he offers to take her and her mother out to lunch. And he shows up in a nice car, which is a new thing at the time, like having cars. He shows up. He takes them for a drive. He realizes he doesn't have enough money to take them to lunch. But he's also... He gets pulled over because he wasn't supposed to take the car that he just rented outside the city. And so the cops were pulling him over. So Clyde's instinct was jump out of the car and run into the woods and never look back. And that poor girl and her mother in the car like, what the hell is just
It's
happened?
your car now. Bye.
So he gets arrested for that. And people are being arrested for all kinds of shit. The penal system is not exactly like, let's rehabilitate people, or it's not much better now either. But
Yeah, I was going to say, we fixed that too.
We fixed that too. But he's a teenager. It's his first offense. And so they don't press charges because the car was okay. But his mother gives him a talking to. And he's very, very close to his parents who love him very much. And he says, they're like, look, straight and narrow. Come on. Straighten up a fly ride, dude. Let's.
Come on, Chestnut.
Come on, Chestnut. You could do it. He can't do it. He gets in all kinds of, he gets a job for a little while and then he quits. He gets mad at a boss and then he quits. He just has a lot of frustrations. He drops out of school and he starts robbing with friends and he goes to jail. And the first jail he goes to was pretty bad, but not terrible. And he gets out of there. And then he meets a girl named Bonnie. Now, Bonnie's story was she was the little princess that her dad died and her mom had to move. And she and her sisters were being taken care of in a smaller place. But she had big dreams. She'd go to the movies all the time. She had all these stars in her eyes. And she wanted to marry a movie star, or she just wanted to get the hell out of West Dallas. Like, she was done. So she's 15 years old and she meets a guy and she marries him. And they're both teenagers. It's like a week before she turns 16. Turns out he's this asshole that beats her, that is wanted by the cops, that is a thief and a thug. And she, even though she has his initials tattooed on her inner thigh,
oh dear,
she's Randy. They break up. And so then she loses the stream and she works at a drugstore. And a lot of the men there have a big crush on her. She's super tiny. Every day she's got like new makeup going, a new hairstyle. She's got all the glamour magazines and the crime magazines. She's always got something to talk about. Like, people really like Bonnie. She's adorable. Everybody drink.
Everybody drink.
One day she meets Clyde at a party and there's just sparks. They can't help it. There's just instant sparks. They're around the same height. They're around the same everything. And
he's like, I'm taller than you.
You can fit in my pocket. Let's go. She has a big crush on him. He has a big crush on her. They go out a few times. Her mother thinks this guy is a pain in the ass. This guy is a psycho. This guy is no good. Don't go out with him. So of course Bonnie is like obsessed.
Which is pretty normal, by the way. When your mom says don't do something and you're a teenager, you're like, I have to do the opposite now.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not the boss of me. I'm going to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. She falls in love with him. They have this very passionate thing going. And that's when he realizes, I need money to take her out. I need money to like live with her. I just don't feel like working for a living. So what can we do about that?
Yeah, boring. Only losers work.
So he's caught criming again, but this time he's sent to a prison, and this is important. It's called the Eastham Farm Prison, and it's down south, and it's a punitive place. You're working the fields, you're tilling dirt, you're tilling concrete, you're working sun up to sundown every day.
Okay,
and it's like in the old movies, like men are barking at you. It's hot. It's the South. Every place it's hot. It's humid. He's also roommates with someone. He's sharing a cell with a man who sexually assaults him on a regular basis.
Damn.
And Clyde's
hardcore prison.
It's hardcore prison. Clyde is so small. Like, he has a hard time defending himself. So one day, Clyde he says, I don't want to work in the fields anymore. And he's like, I got an idea. I'm going to chop off one of my toes. And then I'm going to be so hobbled that they can't put me in the field anymore. So he chops off, I think it's on his right foot, his big toe, and then the toe next to that a little bit with an axe.
Oh, my God.
And either he does it or he gets his roommate to do it. But it gets chopped off. So they're like, fine. They send him to the infirmary, and they're like, all right, dude. No more fields for you. We'll just have to put you in the laundry or something. A week later, his mother gets him out on parole. A week.
No. Da, 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 da.
So Clyde gets out. He walks with a limp now. And he finds Bonnie. And Bonnie had met other dudes. She was on a date with somebody. And he comes to the house, and she like jumps out of the guy's lap, runs off the porch, and runs right into his arms. Like she's
she doesn't care that he's missing a toe.
no, doesn't care at all. So they're hugging and kissing, and then they're planning on criming again. And so they're planning some crimes together, and he's sent back to Eastham. They're both caught. And she's so little and small, and she looks so young that they don't really give her that harsh of a sentence. But Clyde goes back to Eastham, and this time it's even worse. And he's with the same guy, and it's the same stuff happening to him. Like,
oh my gosh, she's gonna have to chop off more toes.
He can't. Yeah. So one day he just loses it. He's like, this man is just making my life hell. And it's like, it's the reason why I can't watch parts of Shawshank Redemption. It's just too upsetting. It's like, that's what's happening
Yeah,
to
it's
him.
super upsetting. Yeah.
Basically, somebody steals him a pipe, and Clyde beats the man to death.
Damn.
And then another guy in the prison who was already in jail for life took credit for it so that Clyde could get out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was awful nice of that guy.
Which is also awful nice. Eventually, Clyde gets out of prison, but basically people say it was a second trip at Eastham Prison that really broke him as a person, being traumatized, being abused so much.
Yeah.
He was no good. He was never going to be.
I was just going to say he was already pretty broken, and then
this just completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, before they were like, he'd steal cars or something, but like this is his first murder that they. And now I've read other places that he probably murdered animals before, but there's no other evidence I have of that. So we'll just stick with what I know. The first human he killed was that person.
Okay.
He gets out of prison, and then he and Bonnie just start going on the run. And so now it's 1932. And this is what it is. You're in a Model T car. They don't have a lot of shocks on them. They don't have heat. They don't have air conditioning. It's a real pain in the ass, like to go to find a gas station and fill it up to have money to do all this stuff. And they're so in love with each other that they think it's this big romantic adventure. And their first thing was like, we're just going to rob banks and we're going to stick it to the man. And because, it's the Depression. People are out of work.
Yes.
People are angry. They had their homes foreclosed on.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people were probably like, I would also like to, have money. And where's the money? At a bank. So I'm going to go rob banks. And
right. Don't hurt anybody. Get away as fast as you can. So Clyde and Bonnie, Clyde especially, got really good at driving. And they practiced driving all the time. Clyde was really good at it, except he couldn't wear his shoes and use the pedal because of the toe situation. So he always had to do it barefoot. So sometimes with a sock. So sometimes he slipped, or it just was very painful because it was that foot that he chopped. Right?
Yeah.
So he and Bonnie, they start by robbing banks, but pretty soon the word gets out, like, add more guards to the banks, and then these people won't show up because they're casing these joints. And they're also bringing along young men with them as they go. And I mean like 16, 17, young. Now, these guys are like lookouts. These guys are like so that Clyde can get a lot of sleep so that he could be, whatever.
Yeah.
Do they all have sex with each other? Who knows? But there's different kinds of rumors about that stuff.
Yeah.
But the next 2 years, all they do is crime. And they just drive and crime and drive and crime. And sometimes
they're just robbing. So they're just robbing banks.
At this point, they're robbing gas stations. They're robbing grocery stores. They're robbing any place they think that there's money. They're stealing cars, and they're robbing places because they're constantly having to like drop off a car someplace because the cops know the license plate number.
Right.
So they take the license plate number off and then they steal another car. And this is the South and it's a nice place. And my parents fucking did this too. They just would leave the cars and the keys in the car, like, who's going to take it? Because I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. But anyway, so they get robbed. So one of those times that they were being chased by the cops. And by this point, he was with his brother Buck and his wife. This is when his older brother, Buck, his name was Irvin, and his wife Blanche showed up. And Buck is about 30 and Blanche is the same age as Bonnie. And they were good friends. Also, Blanche, so it's Estelle Parsons plays her in the movie,
Yes.
Bonnie and Clyde. And Estelle Parsons is really kind of playing her annoying. She won an Oscar for it, by the way. But
Yes.
but her Blanche is like, what are we doing? Oh my God.
You guys,
Stop it. That wasn't Blanche. Blanche was down to party. Like she and Bonnie were good friends. When the Barrow brothers were in jail, they would go and visit them. They would hang out together.
Okay.
But then the four of them, and then sometimes a dude would be with them. They would be driving, and all of a sudden the women hated each other. And everybody just got on each other's nerves. And these are like two very strong women. She was also really pretty, like Bonnie, like really, really tiny, 4'10", 80 pounds, and very pretty too. But they were all kind of getting on each other's nerves. And then one day they're being chased by the cops, and they got away with, they rented a home in Joplin, Missouri, and it was like this 2-car garage place. It was an apartment, and they were hanging out and drinking and smoking and having a great time, and just like, and all of a sudden the cops show up and they could just bust out and get away. And it was because Clyde was really good at driving. He got really good at it. In Joplin, they just barely got away. But when the cops came in, they found a stack of magazines. They found papers with poems written on them, and they found a camera with film in it.
Damn. Okay.
So the film
Poems.
yeah. Bonnie's really into poetry, y'all. I mean, really. I know. I'm not a poetry person. It's just not my thing.
You know what? I'm not a poetry person either, but I know that a lot of people are, and there's a lot of really great poetry out there. And I think the meaning of poetry is also expanded over the years.
Yes.
But to me, it's always like, I don't know, it's just too flowery for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Likewise. Or it's just too obscure or too,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
This is too much work.
Yeah, if I have to think about it that hard, I don't want to do it. Song lyrics are tough enough for me. Okay. So they get away in Joplin. They take these photos, and it turns out all these photos are of Bonnie and Clyde, like being sexy and posing with their car. She's got like a cigar in her mouth, and she's posing on the car.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And they're jumping in each other's arms, and they're making out, and they're posing like, and they look like really good and sexy. So this is what goes out to the public, and this is what makes the public go, ooh, who are these people? Who are these people? Because
who are these people?
they're robbers that are just getting away everywhere. And also what used to happen is that if you went interstate, if you committed a crime in Illinois, you wouldn't get in trouble in Indiana. Like you would cross the state line to go. That's why it's a big deal. State lines are a big deal. So they didn't have like a federal system to like watch all this. I mean, they had an FBI, but they were not that strong yet.
It's not like they had computers and things like that to like track all this. And by the way,
GPS.
which is still super hard to like cross state lines and
Yes.
to catch people. So
because they will claim something like, oh, I didn't do that there, I did it here. And because they have the death penalty, they don't have it here. Whatever.
Yeah.
A couple of times they've kidnapped people and driven hundreds of miles and then just dropped them off someplace, terrorizing them along the way.
Which is awful because it's, again, not super easy to get home.
If you're 100 miles from home and you have $5, I don't care if it's 1931. That's still not a lot happened.
You don't take out your phone and fucking call a Lyft and get to go home.
No.
Like, that's not how it works.
No, and also what else happened was that in a lot of places, especially in these rural areas during the Depression, there were people who became like a night watchman type of person to make maybe $15 a month. So they were on the farm all day. That happened to one of the victims. He was on the farm all day. And then at night they were like, here are the keys. Can you just watch this place? And he was like 50 years old. He had kids. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. So he doesn't know about, casing a joint. He doesn't know about taking it. And in Texas, the governor, Ma Ferguson, who's played by Kathy Bates in the movie. By the way, she was the first woman governor there and was one of the only women governors for a really long time.
Yeah.
And the guy that Kevin Costner played in the movie that we'll be talking about in a minute, he quit his job because he didn't want to work for a woman. Anyway.
Fucking asshole.
He's such an idiot. But anyway, so Texas puts out this $500 wanted dead or alive. And then people had to
That's
say,
huge reward.
it's a big reward, but also like, so you're just going to have people running around hunting people, like, to kill them? Like, you take the dead or alive part out. Like, let the cops handle that, But anyway, so there's a bounty on them in that sense. There's this idea that some people think it's sexy and amazing. These two people are just doing what they're doing. They're bandits. And in real life, he's chopped up his toe. They don't shower very much. They can't eat very much. They're always running out of money because, and they're always
They stink and they write bad poetry.
And they write bad poetry. They don't always have access to like brush their teeth or wash or bathe. They get tired of each other. They're like constantly just smoking cigarettes and eating sardine cans. I mean, this is like their life. Yeah. And it's, the cars
Sounds
break
sexy.
down. Right. And so you go into another place and you want to rob it. And they wind up just killing people. And I'll go through who the victims are. But they shoot quite a few people that are just trying to protect their homes or just trying to protect their businesses. They're not nice people. One of the times that they're being chased, Clyde and Bonnie and then one of their teen men were in the car, and he lands in the water. And the car just kind of explodes as they hit the water. It's like a pond.
Yeah.
The battery acid falls on Bonnie's leg. And it burns off, starts to burn down her leg from her knee to her ankle. And it was like, so Clyde and the guy, WB, they go to a house and they like carry her to a house. And these people are terrified of these people. And they have so many fucking guns. They're just guns aplenty. All Bonnie does all day is stock guns and then put them aside, and then stock them and put them aside. Like, she's super quick. She, by the way, will claim she never shot anybody. I think that's bullshit. I think she's totally, because he's driving all the time.
Right.
So they go to this house and they try to clean her up as best as they can. And they're like, she needs to go to a hospital. And he's like, yeah, right. We're not doing that. And so she can barely walk on that leg. He walks with a pronounced limp. And then they got this teenager with them that's terrified and just wants to go home to his mom. Like, he's sick of this. And
Sounds sexy.
yeah. So he eventually leaves, and then Buck and Blanche show up. And then they're doing their thing, driving around. And by the way, also on top of this, every few weeks they're visiting family in West Dallas, because every time they show up, they give everybody so much money that everyone's paid off. And they don't like cops there, and they don't want the police there. They're just, so they're showing up all the time. It's unbelievable. And then they take pictures, and the pictures get out in the media, and the people are like, what the fuck are you cops doing? These people are having Easter together, like just hanging out in the park, whatever.
They're like, that's fine.
It's fine. So there's another time where they're being raided. They were out camping because they couldn't get a room anywhere. They're out camping, and the cops show up. And once again, Bonnie and Clyde are able to like skedaddle. Poor Buck, fuck him. He was one of the, but this is really gruesome. He gets shot in the head, but he loses a part of his head, but he can still talk.
Oh my God. Damn.
So he's in his underwear. His head is shot. And Blanche is wearing these glasses, and she's screaming like, no, my husband. And he's like, it's okay, honey. Like, he's somehow able to talk. And Blanche, and they were in the shootout. She got some glass in her eye, so she can't see. That's why she's wearing these dark glasses. So they're all a fucking mess. They're all falling apart. So Buck gets sent to the hospital, and this is in Iowa.
How
Blanche is with
embarrassing.
him. In his
Lose
underwear.
part of your brain and you're in your underwear.
I mean, and there's pictures everywhere of this, and so his mother and father actually show up by his bedside and were able to say goodbye to him. He lasted just a couple of days, and then he's gone. And then Blanche is going away, and then the teenager's gone. So now it is truly just Bonnie and Clyde, and they're doing their thing. So that's when we get to our Texan. And his name, there's Ted Hinton. And I think that's the Woody Harrelson character, unless I'm mistaken. But he's a sheriff that used to wait. Bonnie used to wait on him when she was a waitress. and he thought she was really
Oh.
cute. They were friendly.
Okay. I didn't know this.
He teams up with Frank Hamer, and Frank Hamer is the Kevin Costner character. And he
Got
was
it.
at the Texas Rangers, and he's the one that says, I'm not going to work for a woman. So then he's like 51 and not working. And then so finally they're like, you really need to help us with Bonnie and Clyde. He's
They're
like, fine.
dude, fucking grow up.
Fucking grow up. So he goes on the road with them. And the two of them go on the road, and they cover 1,700 miles in the next couple of months. And he's just trying to figure out their routes, how long they stay someplace, what are their habits. And one of the people, and Clyde at one point goes back to the prison that he was molested, where he hides guns there and then helps 4 prisoners break out. And then 2 of them come along with him on their adventures.
How fun!
So one of them is he's hanging around with them, and then he realizes these people are psychos. It's just a matter of time before they get caught. I need to get out of this thing. So he gets caught, and his father basically says to him, we need to cooperate with the cops and let them take Bonnie and Clyde. And they'll forget that you did this murder or that thing, whatever.
They'll forget.
So they're going through Louisiana at this point, and he's saying, yeah, meet me at this place and we'll take care of you. And then his father had a car, and it was parked on the side of the road, and they said they took the tire off the car, and the cops are like, we're going to be in the bushes. You just stand there. Pretend that you have a wheel issue with your car. Bonnie and Clyde will show up, and they'll just come out to help you. And
They're super helpful.
because they're really nice like that. So he's like, okay, because this is to save his son, right?
Right.
They start showing up, and as soon as the car shows up, he's like, fuck this. I'm terrified. Because he thinks they're going to shoot at him any second.
Because
So he
they
takes off.
they murder people. I would be scared.
They fucking murder people. So then what happens, it's one of the most famous shootouts ever, is that their car is surrounded by the Texas Rangers, by cops, Louisiana cops, all these people, and they shoot into their car.
Yes.
And they never even are told halt. They never say, put your hands up. They never said, okay, come out with your hands up. We're going to arrest you. Like nothing. As soon as they caught eye of them, they just fucking shoot.
You got to die.
You got to die. So one of them said, this is from Hamer, we just shot the devil out of them. That's all. That's all there was to it. We just laid a trap for them, a steel trap, Steel like gun barrels are made of. They both reached for their guns, but we're kind of slow. Excuse me. Seemed like they must have had cramps or something. They were just too slow. They were both shot like 50 times each.
Jesus. Damn.
And there's bullets on top of the bullets. It's all on top of each other. And they cover the body. So there's one of the guys there had a camera, so they filmed it, the aftermath. And you see their bodies, and they're all blown up.
Oh, my God.
And Bonnie and Clyde, they put towels over them, and they drag the car. They tow it back to in the town. And everybody in town knew that this was happening. So as the car is going through town and it's really slow, people are ripping off parts of the car. They're jumping into the car, and they're taking their handkerchiefs, and they're like dipping their hands in the blood. One guy tried to cut off Clyde's finger. People tried to get the ring off of Bonnie. She was still wearing her wedding finger from her first husband. They were trying to rip off the car pieces. Like it was.
They just wanted a piece so they could tell
spectacle.
stories.
It was a spectacle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuck.
It was a complete freaking spectacle, but they were dead. And the embalmer said that there were so many holes in their bodies, it took them hours to figure out how to embalm them properly.
Yeah, it would just come out.
It would just come out So Bonnie and Clyde died that day, and it was May 23rd, 1934 in Louisiana. They were brought back to Texas. Huge fucking mayhem, because this is every news story everywhere.
Right.
And somebody said to Bonnie's mother, they wanted to be buried together. And Bonnie's mother's like, fuck that. This guy ruined my daughter's life. She's getting her own thing.
Yes. Let's respect their wishes.
Exactly.
These murderers.
Exactly.
Fuck them.
And then Clyde was buried, in another spot. So they were buried in two different spots. Afterwards, their story, it was replayed a couple of times, but then the 60s come along, and then Arthur Penn, and like I said, he sexes it up. He makes it seem, in the movie, the Frank Hamer character is someone that they capture, and they toy with him, and they, whatever. That didn't happen in real life. He never talked to them. He just shot them, okay? They never they did kidnap other cops, but not him. And his family was fucking furious when they saw that movie, and they sued and got money for it because it was a really bad representation of what really happened. And that's why they really fought for this movie, The Highwayman, because that's really who he was. He was not.
Okay.
But there's a lot of times they make it seem like it was goofy, and it wasn't. I mean, these people really did terrorize people all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Bonnie's husband died in prison. The other brothers died in prison. None of them really lived that long. But let me just leave you with one of Bonnie's poems, because I think she would have liked that. And I'll do a real clip, because this goes on forever. It's called The Story of Bonnie and Clyde. And this is just how it starts. You've read the story of Jesse James, of how he lived and died. If you're still in need of something to read, here's the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Now, Bonnie and Clyde are the Barrow gang. I'm sure you all have read. How they rob and steal, and those who squeal are usually found dying, or dead. That's the kind of stuff she did. Yeah. And she sent it to newspapers.
You suck, Bonnie. 0 stars. Do not recommend.
He wrote it. Supposedly, he wrote to Henry Ford to say how much he liked the car. She complained to all the papers that she wasn't a cigar smoker. Thank you very much. Quit posting that picture of me, losers. They did not have a grasp on reality. These were people.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Why are you so obsessed by I? Anyway, they're dead. They were shot to shit. They were thieves. They were thugs. They hurt people terribly. And I want to end it actually by talking about the people who died.
Yeah.
So it's John Butcher, 1932, Eugene Moore, Howard Hall, Doyle Johnson, Malcolm Davis, John Harriman, Harry McGinnis, Henry Humphrey, Major Crowson. That guy was like 25 years old. He was just about to get married. And his fiance wore her wedding dress to the funeral because she was just so bereft.
Oh my God.
I know. Wade McNabb, E.B. Weller, H.D. Murphy, and Cad Campbell. That all happened between 1932 and 1934. And that is the creepy history of Bonnie and Clyde.
Good job, Margot.
Thank you.
They suck.
They suck. And like I said, if you really want to go granular in all the places that they went to and everything and when exactly it happened, I definitely recommend checking out those other places. But this gives you the big picture idea. So when people give you that whole like, oh, they're sexy and good looking and hot and killers, I'm like, they're exactly one of those things. Just cut the shit.
Well, you almost got it right. One of those things is correct.
Right.
Do you want to hear about our non-creep?
I certainly do.
This person probably contributed more than anybody to that kind of sexy image that we are talking about. I want to talk about Theodora Van Runkle. She is a costume designer who worked on Bonnie and Clyde, the movie.
Oh.
And you will find out why I thought this was so interesting as the story continues. But she was a self-taught costume designer. This was her first movie ever. And she got an Oscar nomination for Bonnie and Clyde. She had this like signature outfit for Bonnie and Clyde. So it was like a beret and like a calf length skirt and then like a sweater. And it like started this whole fashion trend. And it really is still like kind of the go-to look for like bank robbing gangster costumes that you see even now at like costume parties and Halloween. So born March 27th, 1928, Pittsburgh, California. Or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, California's. No, sorry, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you. The daughter of Elsie Adar and Courtney Schweppes from the Schweppes carbonated drink family.
Oh.
Her parents were never married. They didn't stay together. And when she was just a baby, her and her mother moved to California. She was a very talented artist, and she got a job working as a fashion illustrator for a department store. She would draw the ads. And that's when she met this other designer named Dorothy Jenkins. And she was like an Oscar-winning like Hollywood costume designer. She did like Sound of Music and all that kind of stuff, the old school Hollywood stuff. So she worked for Jenkins as a sketch artist for a month, and Jenkins let her go. And the story is that Jenkins just thought she was too talented to be a sketch artist, because then she recommended her for Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so she did an interview and she said, like, I'd never designed anything before, but I knew fashion and I knew style and I knew construction, and I sewed by hand, by machine. And she looked over the old photos of like Bonnie and Clyde and tried to figure out like how to make, how to dress them. And she was out like shopping for fabrics, and she ran into very famous costume designer Edith Head.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, the basis for Edna Mode from The Incredibles, in case y'all are wondering. And she used to dress people like Ginger Rogers and like Grace Kelly and Elizabeth Taylor. And she's like, just dress Faye Dunaway in chiffon. That was her advice.
Oh God, no.
And yeah, obviously she didn't do that. And instead she went for this like very iconic look, like the sweater and the silk blouse with the skirt and the beret. And the beret was the thing. So the film comes out, and like beret like production just skyrockets. It's like it went to like from 5,000 to 12,000 berets a week, and they were like having to make all these berets, and then like skirt length got longer too. So it was kind of a thing back in the day. It's like early Hollywood. The movies used to influence fashion, and that had kind of waned. And this movie, again, like brought Hollywood back to like influencing fashion. So it was kind of a big deal. And then she just went from there. She dressed Faye Dunaway a few more times. She did like the Thomas Crown Affair, which is another one where Faye Dunaway looks so beautiful.
It's a good movie too.
Yeah, and she, dressed Steve McQueen in that movie. She dressed Faye Dunaway off screen for like awards and stuff like that. She also did the costumes for Godfather Part 2 and Peggy Sue Got Married, which she was again nominated for Oscars, but she never won. But the reason I mentioned her, I wanted to bring her up because she did the costumes for Troop Beverly Hills. Which Margot, if you listen to Dorking Out, like Margot loves Troop Beverly Hills. I mean, we both love.
Best movie.
Yeah. And again, not nominated for Troop Beverly Hills, but I think it's worth pointing out because Shelley Long like actually like references Van Runkle by name. She's wearing this like beautiful dress, and she's like, "It's a Van Runkle, isn't it fabulous?" Like, and she designed like the costume, which then, we were talking about how it looks very similar to the one in like Private Benjamin. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But she is like this self-taught costume designer. She worked on like tons of movies, 3 Oscar nominations. She won an Emmy in 1983 for some like show called like Wizards and Warriors or, something like that. But whatever. And she won a Costume Designers Guild Lifetime Achievement Award in 2002. She she lived for a long time. She just died like November, 2011. I guess that's a while ago, but to me it seems just like yesterday.
It does.
And she had lung cancer, but I was just so interested that she was self-taught and that she made like, I don't know, that it was movie fashion that like influenced like how people dressed outside of Hollywood, and that you could make something like berets cool again. And the fact that she worked on Troop Beverly Hills, I think, was worth pointing out. So that is our non-creep, Theodora Van Runkle.
It's true, because also when the movie came out, it took a long time to catch on, and it actually the 67 movie got bad reviews from a bunch of places. I think it was the New Yorker was the only one that was like, no.
Yeah, they said it was violent.
Right.
Yeah,
and it is.
a lot
It's
of
a
places
violent
were
movie.
Yeah, they were like, it's violent and ugly, and these people are bad people. And, you know, we are used to those kinds of movies now, but it wasn't like a super common thing to have movies where the leads were unlikable. And like, they make them somewhat likable in the movie because it's Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, and they're so beautiful, and you're like, oh, they're so glamorous or whatever. But like early Hollywood, you could have like unlikable leads, and then like they put in that movie production code, and there had to be repercussions for your actions.
Exactly.
So it was a lot of like about like heroes and not necessarily about bad people. And here we had this movie about bad people, and it was super violent, and it just didn't look like what we were. Everyone was used to like MGM, like musicals, like and Chiffon and like all this stuff. And here comes a movie like this that seems gritty compared to that. And the clothes were part of that.
It's
And
definitely influenced fashion,
Yeah.
because at the time, especially, like magazines work like 6 months in advance, and it took almost that long, which is hard to think about now because they only give a movie like a week now in the movie theater,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't work, then they like try to stream it someplace. But it took,
Exactly.
like 6. So in that time, all the fashion editors started adapting the style from the movie, and then after like 6 months after the movie came out, all of a sudden it was in all the magazines because it's an achievable look for most women.
Yeah.
You just need a beret and a pencil skirt. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
And a sweater. I mean.
And it's so interesting. She's nominated for an Oscar for costume design for her first movie. She lost to the movie Camelot.
Oh God,
And it's like, I think
redoing
we
that on
all
Broadway.
remember the clothes from Camelot. Like, you know, the Oscars get it wrong a lot. So surprise, they got it wrong here too.
Well, that was a good choice, Sonia.
Thanks.
If you
Any
like-
reason to mention Troop Beverly Hills?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that brings us to what I was going to say next is just if you like the sound of our voices, and good God, why wouldn't you love the sound of our voices? Right? We host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. Sonia, do you want to
Yes.
tell them what we're covering next?
We are going to talk about The Legend of Billie Jean, starring Helen Slater and Keith Gordon and Christian Slater, who I was so sure they were brother and sister, and they are not.
They're not
They
related.
are not brothers.
It's Peter Coyote and Yardley Smith as well.
Yes.
Fair is Fair.
Fair is fair.
Is a Pat Benatar song. That's great. That's a part of it. So that's Dorking Out. Be sure to like and subscribe that one as well. And all that stuff that I mentioned at the top of the show, all of our social media. If you want to give us ideas for creeps, and especially non-creeps, you could always use suggestions for that. We like it when you use the Annie Potts GIF. We got one from Ghostbusters, or just pick something clever on your own.
Yeah.
And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter for now, and Instagram, and the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me at Brooklyn Margot on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm at Brooklyn Fit Chick. That's also my site, brooklynfitchick.com. And I'm on, I know, this is very confusing. I got to get them all together. I will one day. I'll figure
You're
something.
fine.
I'll figure it out. But on TikTok, I'm at Margot Donahue. Y'all, thank you so much for listening. And in the meantime, be safe, be kind. Don't be a creep.
Be a creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.